Hello everybody, I'm Eternal Flame here, and today we are here to do even more JJK theories from you guys, because you guys commented a lot of good JJK theories for me for this chapter. So without further ado, let's get straight into this episode. Remember, if you do want to be in next episode, or get a chance to be in next episode, be sure to comment down your own theory, and there's a chance that your theory might appear in the next episode of this series. So without further ado, let's get into this. Now, our first theory comes from My Loten, and their theory is that we're going to see a very powerful cursed corpse soon, since Principal Yaga in his last moments passed on the technique to Gakuganji for a reason. Shortly before Gojo went out to battle Sukuna, this was brought up again in Gojo's conversation with Gakuganji. A cursed corpse requires 3 souls in order to be created. Ui has collected 3 bodies so far: Gojo, Higuruma, and Yuta. 3 souls. So their theory is they're going to make a cursed corpse out of Yuta's body, Gojo's body, and Higuruma's body to make one powerful cursed corpse in order to add a new fighter into the fray thanks to the knowledge that was gained about how to make cursed corpses. Now, I can see this theory being very possible if I'm being honest with you guys. After all, we know for a reason Gakuganji was given this information, so not using it for anything at all would not really make a lot of sense. After all, that's just kind of just bad writing in my opinion. Plus, they have been collecting the bodies of the people who have fallen in this battle, so basically combining them all to make some new cursed corpse puppet, which might not have their personalities, but instead have all of their powers, in the hope they can at least add even more numbers and fighters against Sukuna with this cursed corpse, would make a lot of sense. However, I don't think Yuta is actually going to be part of the cursed corpse. After all, they were very ambiguous about whether Yuta was dead or alive or not, especially considering we saw Rika actually catch him. So while it might not be Yuta, there is an actual third option that I don't think they thought about originally in the comment section, which that third option is Hajime Kashimo himself. After all, we never see what happens with the chunks of Kashimo's body that was left behind, so maybe that's being added onto it, which is going to allow for Kashimo's speed and lightning manipulation to be added onto Gojo's powers as well as Higuruma's powers to add even more power to the thing rather than having Yuta's copy ability, since Yuta might still be alive as well. So we might be getting the return of Kashimo plus Higuruma plus Gojo inside of a cursed puppet for them to utilize, while also Yuta joining into the fight with the 5-minute timer, and both of them adding even more pressure on a chance to try and beat Sukuna. So I do see this being a very, very good theory. After all, it's not really anything that I can see debunking it, since it seems that cursed puppets like this seems to be something that can be passed on through knowing the method of how to do it, rather than just being an innate curse technique. After all, he passed on the knowledge to Gakuganji on how to actually do it. Now, our next theory comes from Gabriel, where their theory is that right after this fight, everyone other than Gojo is going to come back to team up against Sukuna, each using what is unique to them, since everyone in their own unique way and unique skill set has surpassed Gojo in some way, shape, or form. Yuta has multiple times more CE, Higuruma has equal potential, Maki is multiple times physically stronger, and Yuji has a stronger will. Everyone will come back and jump Sukuna. Now, to add even more onto this theory, Yuji is better than Gojo at the Black Flash because Yuji has landed more consecutive Black Flashes than Gojo has landed consecutive Black Flashes. You can also add Hikari into this by saying Hikari has better RCT than Gojo does. Now, I can see this theory being very, very likely, but there is one issue with this theory, which is the fact that Sukuna wants to start the merger, and he's already said he's going to kill all of the calling game players as well as everyone in the Sukuna extermination squad. So unless this is like the final act of the battle rather than another part of the battle, I don't see this happening because I don't see Sukuna letting anyone escape. However, I do see this being likely the final act of the battle of one massive jumping on Sukuna. After all, this is Jujutsu Kaisen, the anime of jumping, the anime most iconic for jumping. So I can see this being very likely, and this also would prove Gojo's dream correct, where not anyone has to be the strongest and everyone as a group ended up surpassing Gojo rather than just one person surpassing Gojo, thus making it so no one has to feel the loneliness that Gojo felt as the strongest, that Kashimo felt as the strongest, and that Sukuna felt as the strongest, because now everyone is the strongest and everyone can have an understanding of each other, because everyone in some way, shape, or form holds the title of the strongest. I do like this theory a lot, if I'm being honest, and I can see this being very, very possible to happen if it wasn't for how strong Sukuna is. So unless they all end up just being that much stronger than Gojo in their own specific skills to make up for that distance, I don't see this being happening, but at the same time, that could be very, very possible to happen. Now, our next theory comes from, I have no idea how to say the name, I'm going to be completely honest with you. So anyways, I'm just going to call you Nelu because I don't know how to say the full name, as their theory revolves around the possibility of Yuta Akotsu getting Gojo's 6 eyes. This is mainly due to 2 things. The first thing is Ui had teleported both Yuta and Gojo away, as Sukuna had called out earlier that Gojo had been teleported away by Ui. So because they have both been teleported away to Shoko, that it's likely that they're going to end up with the 6 eyes being transplanted into Yuta Akotsu, due to Yuta Akotsu and Gojo being related, and we know the 6 eyes is a genetic type of trait. However, we also know that Gojo and Yuta are related, so it's going to end up going to Yuta Akotsu. as the Six Eyes always reappears and is reborn when it needs to be in order to stop the merger from happening. Now, if I'm being completely honest, this is a theory I'm very much okay with and I kinda like a lot. Now, at first, I was not okay with the entire idea of Yuta being the one to get the Six Eyes, but the more and more I thought about it, the more and more I became okay with it, and the more I actually liked the idea of it. This is mainly because of a misconception that I had at first, which was you need to be born with the Six Eyes in order to have it. However, Kenjaku's wording that a Six Eyes came to stop him after he already taken one out in order to see if he could do the merger without any issues at all, very much implies that it's very possible for the Six Eyes to manifest rather than someone having to be born with the Six Eyes. And with the world being on as much of a threat as it is right now against the merger, considering Sukuna has the authority to start the merger, then Yuta getting the Six Eyes and the other characters getting some type of power-up all in hopes to be able to stop Sukuna, someone who is way too strong for anyone to handle, would be amazing. After all, it's one of the ways that some of the characters can get power-ups for it to be realistic, that they can actually do something against Sukuna. Now, I'm not expecting them to win against Sukuna because spatial dismantle is spatial dismantle, but it would be able to help them nonetheless. My one issue is it might be questionable whether the Six Eyes can rise again or if they died with Gojo, mainly because it is stated that Toji had broken Fate and Tengen and the Six Eyes were connected by Fate. So if Toji had broken Fate, it might be possible that the Six Eyes can never rise again. However, we don't really know by this point. So we're going to have to wait and see in the future, but I can see this being a possible way for Yuta Okkotsu to get another power-up in order to throw him back into the battlefield. Especially considering we don't really know the fate of what happened to Yuta and it's not been confirmed if Yuta is dead or not, so it could work. And, only one Six Eyes can exist, and that Gojo is dead. Now, our next theory comes from Little Boy Greasy, where their simple and short theory is basically Hikari is going to join in against the battle against Sukuna and show off that crazy level of RCT skill that he actually has access to, because it has been stated by Urame that his RCT surpasses even the likes of Gojo and Sukuna's, and that's going to even lead to him basically regenning off a world dismantle, and then Sukuna's just going to look at that and just end up using a bigger world dismantle that's going to target his entire body and obliterate him in one shot with that bigger dismantle. Now, this is something I could see being very, very possible, considering Hikari's RCT is completely automatic, and the only way to actually kill Hikari is to destroy his brain, and if he tries to just make a massive dismantle to go through him, it's not going to work, and he's probably just going to end up healing that off, which is just going to lead to Hikari, having to get his entire body atomized at once, because that's what I can see being the more likely method of Sukuna doing it, rather than him just trying to cut off the head. He's just going to cut off his entire body at once, and just obliterate it with the world dismantle on the body. That's something I could see being very, very possible, and the Hikari fans are not going to like that. Now, our next theory comes from New B-Man, where their theory is about the reason for why Kusakabe was selected to be the strongest Grade 1 is because of his power to deflect domains. Or because of the fact that we've never seen Kusakabe have to actually fight against a domain, that we know that his simple domain might actually be really good against domains in comparison to everyone else, simply because of how amazingly skilled he is in simple domain. It could also work to explain why he was selected to be the top of the Grade 1 sorcerers despite him being kinda lazy, but he also has the ability to fight people beyond his level because of his ability to deflect domain expansions through his simple domain. Now, this would actually fit in very well with what we found out in the most recent chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen about why Kusakabe is so strong. He does have incredible domain skill. He is basically a Swiss Army knife as described by Meimei in the most recent chapter. His simple domain skill is through the roof, and that makes a lot of sense for why he could be selected as the strongest, because his simple domain might actually be strong enough to deflect domains in general, which that is something we don't really know about. Like, it might be possible for him to deflect sure hits in domain away from himself indefinitely because of how focused he is in simple domain, unlike Gojo, who has a domain that he can focus on, but we don't really know because we never see Kusakabe tossed into any domain, so this is a solid maybe of a theory. Now, the next theory comes from Taffy Water, where their theory is around Sukuna's Fire Arrow, and that Sukuna's Fire Arrow isn't actually a true CT, but it's really just Sukuna using Cleave and Dismantle in order to slice apart atoms, in order to make a flame, similar to how nukes work, but instead of the flame just combusting everywhere, he uses cursed energy to control and shape the arrow against opponents, and then fire it off like a giant fire arrow. This is also something that I could see being very, very possible if I'm being completely honest. It would have explained a couple things. For example, why Yuta never used the fire arrow against Sukuna inside of the domain, because it's a skill thing and Yuta doesn't actually have enough skill to use Cleave and Dismantle on that type of level like Sukuna does, while also at the same time he just probably doesn't actually know that much about how it works, since he doesn't actually know the full mechanism of how the fire arrow works. Furthermore, it also makes a lot of sense considering when you look at Sukuna's hand motions he does in order to craft the fire arrow, if this is him molding the cursed energy and shaping it in order for the fire that's contained within it to be turned into a fire arrow, it could very well be possible for that to be how it works. It even has an explanation for why Mahoraga wasn't immune to the fire arrow, because the fire arrow itself wasn't just to cleave and dismantle, but rather the after effects of a cleave and dismantle. And considering we already know cleave and dismantle is capable of targeting concepts like space itself, targeting atoms shouldn't be that much more difficult in comparison, if not much easier for someone like Sukuna to do. It could also make it possible that anyone who has cursed energy slashes and the ability to manipulate it would actually be able to simulate the fire arrow in the way Sukuna does. It just takes Sukuna level of creativity as well as cursed energy intelligence in order to fully pull off. The one issue I have with this theory is questioning why Sukuna needs to say the word open every time he uses the fire arrow if that's the case. However, there could be a potential reason. This could be a binding vow involved where he needs to change some part of his brain in order to focus the slashes on that small of a level, but I'm not too sure. This is something that I could see being very possible to happen though. However, that's about all the theories I have for this week's episode of Jujutsu Kaisen theories done by you guys. Thank you everyone for your submissions of your theories in the comment section down below. I'm really excited to see what theories we got for next week. I'm gonna see y'all later. Peace out. I hope y'all have a good day. Bye.